Welcome back everyone, Lonnie Payne with another pinball video, reminding you if you like what you see, please like, subscribe, share, and let's go.
Welcome to the jungle. We got fun and games.
Alright, first machine we'll talk about is Bally Harley Davidson. This is a ground up restoration, and I'll show you kind of the inside. All the metal parts were actually powder coated a metallic orange. All the leg bolts, or leg brackets, got the orange wire covers back there. Normally I would pop the playfield up to show you, but it's such a tight fit with the mirror blades. I don't like to raise this playfield unless I absolutely have to. But even though most people don't see it, I just think it's a neat thing, kind of like restoring a car engine, that even though most people don't see it, when you do pop it up or something, people get to look into it. They think it's kind of cool. So that's one of the things I do. I don't know if you really consider that a mod, but it's just one of the things I like to do. Okay, there's really only three things I did to this machine, and one of them you might not even consider a mod. Anybody that's familiar with this machine may know the cabinet doesn't look like it originally does. Normally there's blue in here and here, and it's like a four-color color scheme, and I'll put a couple pictures up now to kind of show you what it originally looked like. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to change it up a little bit. So I kept the actual graphics the same, but I stripped the entire cabinet down, sanded it down, and then I went with just a solid black, and then I went with the normal graphics on there, except I changed the live to ride, ride to live to a metallic silver. And then on the side, I actually just changed, I basically colorized it. So I took the blue out, but I colorized the eagle, and then the USA, everything down here. And then what I did was, on the front and on the side, I actually put a little outline of blue around the Bally. I don't know if you can see that very good. And then also I did the same thing for the Harley Davidson up front. And that was kind of pay homage to the original, but then, you know, I didn't want too much on there. I wanted it to be black. You know, everybody thinks black when they think Harley Davidson. And then obviously I went with the colored flipper buttons. And then when I went to actually look at the powder that I wanted to use, chrome's kind of hard to come by nowadays. There's a couple people that do it. There's nobody in the state of Arkansas that actually will do it for you. And what I decided to try was something called black chrome. And so this is black chrome for the legs, the back box hinges, and I did the outer rim of the coin door. And I'm really happy with how it turned out. It's a contrast, and I like contrast, but it's not an in-your-face contrast. So it's kind of what I call kind of a soft contrast, to where it really sticks out, but it's not over the top. And so I just thought it really made a nice combination. I was really happy with it. And okay, on the back of the machine, I actually just put a big Harley Davidson logo on the back. And one of the other things I like to do is I color the vents. And then in this one I actually colored the decals too. So just something a little fun. The other thing I did was I put the LEDs under all the star posts. And I really love how that red post lights up. And then I put the LEDs under the two, or all three of the scoops, I guess. And I really love how that stuff lined up. And I just think it adds a little look to it. It doesn't discolor the playfield as far as the colored lights. It just adds a nice little pop when you're looking at the playfield, and I'm pretty happy with that. The biggest mod I did on this one, you'll see, is the pipes on top. And the pipes kind of have a story. I have a Harley Davidson, and I'll show you it right now. All right, so this is my Harley Davidson. You see those pipes look awful familiar. Those pipes actually came off of this bike. When I put the new pipes on the bike, the chrome had just a very slight imperfection in it, so when I called Danson Hines, they just sent me new ones, said keep the old ones. So those were in a box for 10 years. When I'm doing a pinball machine, a full restoration, I always try and find one thing that people will talk about. And so I kind of came up with an idea of like, well, what if I put these pipes on top here and make them light up? So there are those pipes, and then what I did was I made a bracket and then fed the wires basically through here. If you look in the end there, not sure if you can really see, there was actually 2 orange flashers in each pipe. And each one of those orange flashers, one in the top, one in the bottom is hooked to this flasher, one on the top and one on the bottom is hooked to this flasher. And when you hit the spinners, those things flash, and I'll show you that right now.
Harley spotted leaving Sturgis, over.
So that's Bally Harley Davidson. Just a few little things I did to it to enhance it with the mirror blades, and just really happy with how it turned out, and I hope you all enjoyed it. All right, next up is Jurassic Park. I did the same thing inside as I did with Harley Davidson. Everything is powder coated red, and in fact even powder coated all the stuff on the bottom of the playfield red on this one. So it actually has a little bit more done to it than Harley Davidson, but I don't know, just kind of fun to do the insides of the cabinets. All right, here's the playfield. Did quite a few things on the playfield on this one, but a lot of them are subtle or not really overwhelming. Just like in Harley Davidson, I actually did all the post lights and just lit them up white on this one. And then the other things I did, I added actually from Tim's Pinball Mods, I actually added the scoop light kit, which is, I really like that because it really lets you know what shot you're supposed to hit instead of trying to look at the lights on top. I mean, if the scoop's lit up, you hit it. So I mean, I just think that's a real good mod. And then also from him is I have the operating gate mod, which I think is an amazing mod. And then, you know, this kind of goes into what I like and don't like about mods. He has a great mod for a Velociraptor that comes out of a crate, but I do not like to have mods on my machine that actually block your view of anything. And no matter where you put that, whether you put it in this corner, whether you put it in the center here or whatever, it's always going to block something. And I personally just don't like that, so I've never put that one on there, but it's a good looking mod. I just wish there was a place you could put it. And then of course I got serial number 8 of Winter is Coming T-Rexes. That thing is amazing. I actually bought that a couple years before I even restored this machine because I knew I had to have it, and that thing just is great. I can't stand the Barney looking T-Rex that's on there originally, so hopefully for you guys that are waiting, I know he's working on a 3D printed version of this, and hopefully it'll come out and you guys can get it because it's great. And then some of the more subtle things I've done is I like the red on the ramp, wire form ramp, so I did that. And then I got this mod, this and this, from another gentleman on Pinside, and I like him. He has a computer for this, but I started thinking in my mind I wanted to do something different. So I actually made this screen. That's a 4D Systems 1-inch screen. I think a 1.25-inch screen. And it kind of goes back to, I had to design it in a way where it wasn't going to block anything. So when you're standing in the player's position, there is absolutely nothing that this screen blocks. You got a pop bumper behind it. It doesn't stick out to the side. And what I did was kind of give you a little, you kind of see on the back, it's kind of got an open back, so the wires go straight down, but from the front this covers everything. This is actually printed. I designed and printed this screen. It's kind of a 2-piece screen that snaps together, and I did that because I wanted to cover up the screws that hold the screen in, so that's why this front piece is another section that goes on there. And that actually runs part of the program that was on Nedry's computer and also Samuel Jackson's computer. And it just kind of, it's about a 3-minute loop, so you can kind of see that's when they're running the tour and the fences and everything. Kind of goes through that whole thing. So since it's a control room, I thought that was kind of neat. But then I had to come up with the green light, they all have green lights. So then I printed a green light, and there's actually a flex bulb that's in there, an LED. So that actually works like it's supposed to. So I don't need the lower light that's originally on there because the scoop light's up, and then this covers the other one. So that kind of gets me covered for that computer. And then I added a second light that flashes inside the scoop for the T-Rex. I just thought that was neat. I put, of course, the white ball, which a lot of people have done. And then a couple little minor things, like I powder coated the metal piece of this blue. So when you put the stickers on and everything, the tabs, they're not ugly metal. And then the same thing for this grass piece here. I actually matched the powder to the middle color of the hunter green of there. So, you know, when you look at it, it's all green now. And so it just, I thought it looked better. And then the other thing that I made was this East Dock sign. And there's several that are out there, but I ended up making this one because I wanted to make it functional. So, you know, in the movie, when Ned recrashes, he starts spinning around this little piece here. And so what I did was I printed that, and then I put a little micro servo on the back, or it's ultra micro servo, and then printed a little cover to cover it that's the width of that post. So hopefully you don't even see it from the front. And then there's a groove inside of this post where the wire goes down, so you'll actually see that there is actually no wires that you can see, but it's actually powered. And I'll kind of show you how that works now. So it's just on a little timer, so when the ball goes up to the East Dock, that spins. So I just thought that was kind of cool, just something a little different. So when I wanted to come up with that one thing that's people talk about or not looking for, it has to do with the Velociraptor claws. In the movie, when they're trying to get in the control room, the Velociraptor tries to stick his claw in there to keep them from shutting the door, and then eventually they get the door shut. Well, I kind of wanted to play on that. So from the front of the machine, you don't see anything, especially from the player's perspective. And when you're playing, you don't really see this sometimes, but it's more for the people that are standing there with you. They can see it better than you can because of just the angle, but I just thought it was kind of a neat little thing. But behind, there are two Velociraptor claws that are hooked to that Velociraptor target. So when you hit that Velociraptor target, these claws come out around the corner, kind of like they did in the movie. And so this right here, this whole mechanism was 3D printed, and I bought the claws, but then hooked up to servos. And so I'll shut the lights off here. It's a little light in here, so you won't get the full effect. But I got a strobe up right here. And so when you hit that Velociraptor target, this is what you see. Let me get a little bit closer. You actually have one of those on both sides, so I thought that was kind of a fun thing to do. And then I've got the pin sound board in here. That thing is absolutely amazing. For Jurassic Park, to me it's a must-have if you can do it. All right, two more mods I actually kind of forgot about. When dinosaurs ruled the earth, I actually lit that up. And the way I did that is I actually printed a box that it totally encloses the light, so that light doesn't flood down and light up anything else. Some of the lights put up there will kind of light up that whole area. I wanted that to be its own little entity. And then what I did was I actually took the wood back panel out, and that back now is a acrylic back panel that is lit up from behind. So what you see lit up is actually lights from inside that acrylic panel. It's not any kind of light showing on the front or anything. So I thought that was pretty cool. And the standard, I put the light in the little scoop back there. Okay, one of the things I can't stand is things reflecting off the glass. So one of the things I've done is there's a polarized filter that's on here so you don't see any of the DMD reflecting off the glass. And then another thing I've done, for some reason Jurassic Park is really bad with glare from the back box. And so a lot of people have even taken out some lights to make it dimmer. What I've done is I've actually modified this so whenever you're playing the game, the back box is off. And the way I did that was, here's your standard connector, and so I've got a one in the center, and these go up to these two relays up here. So I get a good picture of that. The two relays that are up here, and what those hook to is I've got to bleed off of this flipper circuit. Whenever the flippers are active, this circuit right here is what's turned on. So I've got a line that comes up from there, goes to these two relays. They get their power from the power supply, 12 volt. So whenever the flippers are active, these relays that are normally closed will open. So right now you can see they're normally closed, and so you got the back box lights that are on, but the second the flippers become active, those lights turn off. So as soon as your ball pops out, the lights turn off. You have nothing reflecting off the glass, and then whenever you drain or it goes back into track mode, the lights come on. Looks pretty for everybody else. So anyways, that's just, actually I did that first with my Star Wars. This is kind of the test, and I use these kind of relays. I'm not sure if you can see them very well. Readily available on eBay for $1 or $2. I had one of those go out though, and I knew I'd be taking Jurassic Park to Texas, and so I wanted something beefier. So those are actually like 40 amp relays. So those things are rock solid. They're auto relays, and they work great. In fact, there's some of the control boards for those other mods, the claws and everything, up in the back box. So that's Jurassic Park, and this is one of the games that can be modded to the hilt. I know there's a lot of people that put trees on them, a lot of other dinosaurs, and that's all fine and good. It just, I want it to look like it's supposed to be there. And one of the best compliments I ever got was on the Pinball podcast. Jeff actually had talked about this game when he came back from Texas, and he said everything was in its perfect right place and looked like it was supposed to be there. And that's the best compliment I can get. And when he told Jessica that I won Grand Champion, she kind of laughed because it was Jurassic Park. So Jessica, I forgive you. But anyways, that, you know, I want it to look like it's supposed to be there, not over the top or anything. It's just my personal preference. But hope you liked it. All right, next up is Williams Fire. And there's really not a lot I did to this game. I mean, it was a pretty big restoration. But as far as modding, the only main thing on the play field is actually I powder coated these little ramps red. I just thought the red was a nice complement to the artwork and ended up turning out really nice. I was pretty happy with it. Now the big mod that I did on this machine was that, you know, you're looking for something that nobody's seen before, they're not expecting. And for those of you that know this machine, they know that it has a brass bell on top, and that's normal. But I found a set of extra buildings on eBay, and so I went ahead and made a topper with some lights in it. But then what I actually did, and this isn't for the faint of heart because this mod is not something that you can actually reverse. But anyways, when you start the game or actually go up the ladder, then these buildings themselves will actually catch on fire. And they run for 10 seconds or so. And it's funny to watch people play the game because they're just not expecting it. And I love the reaction that I get. But, you know, like I said, it's not something that's reversible, and you got to commit to it because, I mean, you're cutting a hole in the top of your back box and putting these lamps in. So, you know, for me, it's my machine. I don't care. I'm keeping it. And, you know, it's at the top of the back box. It's not like anybody else sees it. So I thought it was cool. And now I kind of show you the guts on how that actually works. All right, so what I actually did on this is you got to have 120 volt power to run them two fans. So I actually pulled 120 volts off of the plug, ran it down, and actually just made an actual physical plug in. And then I could plug in the two little transformers for the lights up there. And then I came back and I've got two different timers. One timer, the 10-second timer runs when you start the game. The 20-second timer runs when you get up to the ladder on the building. And so those switches actually come in. I run the 10-second switch from the credit button right to the credit button, but you can only do this with one switch. If you try and do it with more than one switch, you end up running into switch matrix issues. So that was all I could do. So I try and stay out of the switch matrix as much as I can anyways. And in fact, on all my current games, I would probably put a second switch there, but it works fine, so I'm not going to change this one. But I'll show you then what I did with the building. All right, so here's the big building. Here's the ladder comes up and the ball goes through there. And so, like I said, instead of continuing with the switch matrix, I actually mounted a second switch right behind the actual switch matrix switches. So when you open the door, it physically activates both switches and turns the fan on. Of course, you get the switch matrix register for going up the ladder. So that's the way I do that. And on most of my stuff that I want to activate, I try and do that just to stay out of the switch matrix. So I hope you can see that well. Just so there's actually 4 switches there instead of 2. All right, now Back to the Future. There's not a whole lot I did on the playfield. One of the few things I did, I just changed the lights from white to red. I like that. The Bis Pleasure Paradise hotel key, I actually got that from a friend of mine down in the Texas Pinball Festival. I thought that was pretty cool. And once again, it doesn't block the view of anything where you put it. And then the same thing with the little TV here. That's the same kind of TV that's in Jurassic Park, except it has a 1950s type of case to it. And I thought with Back to the Future that actually fit. I've actually seen that same TV in all kinds of different games, but I just don't think it looks right in some games because it doesn't fit the era, whereas it actually fits the 1950s era. So it just has about an hour's worth of footage from all 3 movies that it plays. And once again, the only thing behind that was a plastic. The ball only goes over to that side and then stops here, so it actually doesn't block the view of anything. But that's really all I did on the playfield itself. Here's the flying DeLorean that I have. And it's actually, what that is, it's a 1/18 scale battery powered toy. And so what I did was I took the entire thing apart and I took all of the LEDs out of it that were battery powered and I replaced them with 12 volt pre-wired LEDs that I got off eBay for different colors that have about 6-inch leads on them. So they're all powered off the 12 volt system. I've got a transformer, 12 volt transformer in the base of the cabinet that anytime the game's on, that's on. And then these actual blue ones are actually hooked to a flasher, so they're interactive on the game. But if you look even on the inside, the instrument panel and everything is lit up in there. The dashboard, the time circuits and everything are all lit up. And actually, I didn't want it sitting on here, so I took these wheels, bent them down 90 degrees so it actually looks like the flying DeLorean, and then just made a custom bracket for it. And give it a nice banked profile when it's on, and I'll show you how those flashers will work here. All right, so the flasher, you can see it. So whenever that flasher goes in the game, that's interactive, so it does interact with gameplay. And then what I did was I actually made the plutonium box that Doc used in the movie, and I started out with a DJ mic box, and it was almost a perfect structural match for the plutonium box. So actually I took it completely apart and then painted it and then decaled it, put it all back together, and actually made the acrylics on the inside for the plutonium. You can actually take those out, the sticks out. And then you'll see that one of them's missing, and the whole premise behind that is it's actually powering the machine, just something kind of funny. And then it actually, the green skill shot that flashes, actually there's flashers in there that'll actually flash that when you shoot the green skill shot. So here's a skill shot. Then what I did with it is I actually hooked it to bars, and so that way when you move the machine around, it actually goes with it and stays in the same spot, so you never have to worry about it getting out of place or anything. And then the wires actually run under this bar, so I try to keep everything hidden to where you couldn't see anything, and it looked all nice and tight. But that's kind of a cool thing that people seem to like. I thought it kind of went well with the movie. Hey, little girl. And then I put and I got a flux capacitor that runs off here. It was actually, this coin door had a perfect hole in it. That thing just actually sits there. It's actually a thing that sits in your cigarette lighter in your car, so it works perfect. And of course it takes plutonium to play the game, so I changed those up a little bit. But once again, kind of like Fire, this doesn't have a whole lot of mods on it. Yeah, I don't feel like it needs it. It's a good little game. Just added a few little touches here and there to try and spice it up. And then the topper, and I thought that was a complete package. All right, the last one I'll talk about is F-14 Tomcat. I only got one mod on here. This game actually hasn't been restored. It's just something I did quite a while ago and thought it was pretty cool. I actually put 2 F-14s on here, and they're die-cast models. And the thing about them that's different is I actually modified them, and I actually cut their exhaust off of both engines and actually put a bezel on there with an LED in each of them, because the bezel looked actually just like the real engine nozzle, and then there's an orange LED in there. And so on both of them, whenever the beacons on top run, those afterburners light up, and I'll show you that. There's the afterburner, and those will stay on as long as the lights are on up top. So that's F-14. What I have planned for this in the future is I'm actually putting a real rotating beacon from an airplane on top and also on the bottom. So a lot of airplanes have beacons on top and bottom, so they'll rotate like a regular airplane. So I thought that might look kind of cool. Well, that's it for this video. Hope you liked it. Hope I was able to convey to you how I kind of come up with the mods that I come up with and the reasoning behind it. If you have any suggestions or maybe some mods you'd like to see for any of the machines in my collection, I'm always looking to do something out of the ordinary. Please leave it down in the comments. And just remember, if you like what you see, please like, subscribe, share. We'll see you on the next one.